What's up, everybody? Black Guy Senpai with my friend Miles, who did something fun today. Did something memey today. What did you do today, Miles?
I might have made a terrible mistake a while back and spent $400 on a Touken Ranbu deck. And I played it today, and it did way better than I thought it would.
Okay, so how did you do today?
I did pretty well, all things considered. My only two losses were to Seabreeze triple crit on Gurguit, and my other one was I flipped up my Vanguard against Great Nature Player, and he went, "Oh, I love facing this clan. I know everything about it," and I just sort of groaned. But it was a lot of fun.
So you went X2?
Yes, X2.
Alright, at what event though?
The regionals in Indianapolis.
Oh, awesome. Alright, so let's see what you were playing.
Alright, so Touken Ranbu has like 3 main starters that you run. I'm running Midari Toshiro Toku. His skill, I said he this time, I usually say she on accident, is Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, and put it into the soul. At the end of the battle, that the unit that it boosts didn't hit. You can pay the cost and then restand a unit with Omare. Now, a lot of people will run the other one that's 5k and a crit. So, I just found that wasn't really necessary. So yeah, that's the starter. I'm running 3 copies of Hotaru Marutoku. This is why I'm running the starter that I am. His skill is Generation Break 1, Omare. When this attack hits the Vanguard, Counter Blast 1, pick a column, and restand the whole thing, including itself. So it's just a lot of pressure, and it's bugging me that I only have 2 SPs.
Yeah, I was about to say something about that. Like, how much are the SPs?
$20, but I was lazy.
4.
College student. I'm running 4 of the best grade 3 in the deck. Surumari Kuninaga. Now, his main skill is On Stride, Soul Charge 1, pick 2 rear guards, give them both 3,000. So it's just infinite soul, basically. And he has an Omare ability, which does come in handy every now and then, which is on hit, Soul Blast 1, Counter Charge 1, then take a grade 3 from the drop zone and add it to your hand. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're out of stride fodder, he can come in handy with it.
Yeah, if you hit.
If you hit.
How many, like, just out of curiosity, how many times has that actually resolved?
Actually, tonight it happened twice.
Oh.
So it was really funny, actually. But the next card, I'm running 4 of Shishio, and he's a, forgot. He's a 7k grade 2, and a lot of people don't run him because he's a 7k grade 2. But his skill is Shiken Hisatsu, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, pitch a card, on attack, draw 2.
Oh.
So it's a lot of draw power.
That's on Vanguard and Rearguard?
Only on Rearguard, unfortunately. Okay. But also on Rearguard, he cannot be targeted by effects. So in certain matchups, Link Choker, it can come in handy. But I have to say, of the grade 2s, nothing carries the clan harder than this card here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His name is Uzumi no Kami Kanesada Toko.
That's a long-ass name. I feel bad for you.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass to write. Alright, so on the Vanguard or Rearguard circle, you take a card from your hand, Soul Charge it, look at the top 7 cards for a Wagasashi. And we'll get into those later. But his other skill is Nito Kaigen. If he's boosted by a Wagasashi, he gains 4k. This is not Generation Break, so both of the Wagasashis that I run are 7Ks, so he becomes 13K, boosted by a 7, so he's a 20K column before GB. So that 10K that they're sitting on now doesn't matter.
Oh, God.
And this card right here with his totally not boyfriend, carries the clan super hard.
Oh, God.
And the last grade 2s I run are 2 copies of Heshikiri Hasebi, and his skill is Omare. When he hits, counterblast 1, restand him, and then he can swing at anything except the Vanguard with an additional +2.
Ooh.
So that's also not Generation Break. So that Chrono Drain that's hiding in the back line, you can swing at for an 11. So it's just a lot of cheeky little pressure.
Jeez.
And next up, we should probably talk about the grade 1s. I'm only running 2 of... crap. Mutsuno Kame Yoshishiku Toku. Bleh. His skills are, first off, he has Shiken Hisatsu. If I'm at 3 or more damage, I can attack from the back row. The second part is the cool part. Generation Break 1, when he attacks, the Vanguard, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, he gains 9k.
So he's a 16k attacker.
That attacks from the back row. How's it feel, Aquaforce?
Oh, fuck you.
Let's see here. That's pretty standard, so we'll go over that later. So then I have 3 Stride Fighter. Now this one's a little bit special, actually. And it's actually kind of important because, in addition to having the usual Stride Fighter skill, it has another skill of on place. You can shove it into the soul, give something 5,000, and an Omare ability. And the Omare ability is Soul Blast 1, on hit, counter charge 2. The important part is it gains the Omare ability, not the fact that it will ever use the Omare ability. And I'll get more into that later, but I run 3 of those.
Alright.
Next up, I'm running 3 of Honebami Toshiro Toku.
I hate this card.
It's so good, actually. I hated this card when I first was playing it, and then it became really good. Its first skill is Generation Break 1. When you place it on Guardian Circle, Soul Blast 1, Counter Charge 1. And then its other skill is not GV. At the end of the turn, Counter Blast 1, bounce it back to hand. So you could go super hardcore aggressive with this thing, especially with the special crit trigger that Touken Ranbu gets, which is actually kind of ridiculous. But it also lets you keep countercharging going, because you're always going to have soul thanks to your main grade 3's ability of soul charge every time when you stride. So it just helps keep the resource game going, and that's probably the most interesting part of this deck, is how you manage all your resources, because a lot of it's just trading. But anyway, I run 3 of him. Or her, yeah, him. I almost said her.
The BDSM trap.
Important to note, he is a Wagasashi. So for the grade 2 Kanesada, it can be searched. And this guy, Horikawa Kumihiro Toku. So he's also a Wagasashi. And Nito Kaigen. With this unit, boosts Uchinagana like, what's his face? I just realized I had this face. It's the other way around, sorry guys. The Uchinagana, which is the grade 2 Nito Kaigen cards, he gains 3k. And then if it has the Nito Kaigen ability, gains another 3k. So he becomes a 13k booster if he's boosting that grade 2 that I said carried the clan. So altogether, that column is a grand total of 26k on its own before anything else. And then you can restand that column with Hotaru Marutoku, who can also be restood by your starter. It gets kind of ridiculous really, really quickly.
This sounds like a headache.
It's a lot of fun. For me, not necessarily for the opponents. The next cards I run are the trigger lineup. So 4 of the Touken Ranbu crit. Now this one's unique among the whole shove into soul do things crits, in the way that it's not, doesn't require a certain Touken Ranbu card. It doesn't even say grade 3 Touken Ranbu card. So you could just shove it into soul whenever, and then it has to be at stand. That's the one downside. But you shove it into soul, you give 2 units in the front row, 3k. And then you draw a card. So
So your Vanguard doesn't even have to attack?
You attack with your Vanguard, yes.
Okay.
But it has to be a Touken Ranbu Vanguard, which I think you can manage somehow. So a lot of the times you could have your starter move up to the front, become an 8k. This becomes a 10k if your opponent misses its grade 1 ride. It just becomes kind of silly. And there's some interesting interactions with some of the other cards too, namely one certain stride. Remember how I mentioned with my Stride Fodder how gaining the Omare ability is important?
Mm-hmm.
Meet Aizen. His ability is once per turn when your Vanguard attack, if this unit is in the back row, stand this unit. And then if that unit, if your Vanguard has the Omare ability, restand the unit in front of it. So it restands the whole column as long as you have the Omare ability. I have only used him once.
No.
But it's super, super good, and it's super, super cheeky, especially with Shishio, who is not once per turn. Oops, that's not Shishio. Shishio, who is not once per turn. So you can just keep restanding him repeatedly, for swinging for 11, which is relevant, and keep drawing cards.
I hate you.
I should mention that with the grade 3s, there is an argument for running the Legion, just because you can deck out super, super fast. But yeah, that's why I run only 2 Aizen, because more than that kind of gets a little bit clunky. But yeah, he's really good. I wish I could abuse him more. 4 vanilla crits, because crits are good and crits win games through skill. 2 draw, and these draws are really good because it's shove into soul countercharge. I wish every clan had this. I don't run 4 because I wanted room for the stand triggers, and as I mentioned earlier, deck out is Odeshi with this deck. And then 4 heal, because you have good G Guardians, and you're not an entire rush deck.
Alright, let's get to the...
and I'm sorry, 4 perfect cards, obviously, I had them set aside because they were shiny.
Okay. Alright, so let's get to the meat and taters of this deck.
Okay.
The stride, or the G-Zone.
G-Zone. Easy thing first. Sea Breeze. You may be able to rush, but being able to punish people for not riding is really, really good. Next up, I have Mikazuchi Munichika, and his skill is Counterblast 1, flip a G unit, not necessarily himself, and then for every 2 G units that you have face up, your opponent picks you in the front row, retire it, and then if you have, 2 or more, he gains a crit. And then he also gains 3,000 power for each face-up G unit. So he just becomes a big beat stick really quickly, really helpful in the control matchup. I wish I had a second copy of him, honestly. The next card we should probably talk about is Hotaru Maru. And I'm running 2. Honestly, I'd cut 1 for a second copy of this guy. Now, Hotaru Maru's skill is pretty cool, actually. It's Omare. And it's the only grade 4 with Omare, which is important with the stand trigger, as I mentioned earlier. But on hits, if Hotaru Maru hits, you can flip a copy of him, and then rest 5 rear guards, restand, drive -2. No discarding from hand, just rest 5 units. It's sort of like Commander Laurel. But if you heard me earlier, I said I would cut this one here, because it's an optional ability. I don't need to necessarily do it. And usually people will hard guard the crap out of this because they just hear on hit restand, and that's enough. So it's still a really good card. Honestly, Hotaru Maru is probably my favorite character in this deck.
So what do you do if you do cut that guy?
Just say I don't want to rest 5 rear guards, because a lot of the times you're going to have your 26k column that you don't want to rest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just becomes one of those mind game situations. But yeah, that is one thing that I really want to try doing sometime if I ever get the second copy.
I mean, we're at the regionals. It could happen.
Yeah, that is true. Next up, we have 2 copies of Surumaru Kuninaga Toku. And his skill is, once per turn, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Go through your drop zone, call it a grade 2 and a grade 3. And then at the end of the turn, if you have 2 or more G units face up in the G zone, bounce one of them back to hand. So, important thing to note is that you pay the cost first. So, let's say you have your really awesome grade 2 that you want on the rearguard circle. Soul Blast that out, then you can call it back out, and then bounce back out your Stride Fodder. And since both your Stride Fodders have Omare ability, aka on-hit abilities, it's a little bit more pressure. So, it's a really good card. I compare it to Die Earth, I think it is, from Dimension Police. And it's a really cool card. Next up, we're going to have Conquering Supreme Dragon, Dragonic Kaiser Iwatoshi. And this card is simple. Counterblast 1, flip a copy of himself. He swings at the entire front row.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
I hate you.
And then we have Ishikimaru Toku. This card is also really good with my starter, because his skill is Shiken Hisatsu, Counterblast 1, flip any unit, so Hotaru Maru, who you're not going to use, that Sea Breeze you're not going to use, you can just flip it face up. Let's see here. I'm sorry, I just want to remember the wording. Oh yes, when it attacks, if all your units are at rest, he gains 10k, and then if you have 2 or more G units face up, gain quad drive and a crit. So, because all units have to be at rest, all the triggers are going to go onto the Vanguard normally. So, this also screams Perfect Guard me, which means that your starter will proc. So that means you could dump all your triggers onto your... Thank you, yes. That means that you can restand Hotaru Maru after you've dumped 4 triggers worth of cards on her. Which then means you can restand another column. Again, it's one of those cards that I very rarely use, but when I use, I win. Also, totally not better than Chrono Fang Rebellion or Cross Gallop, or X Gallop, or whatever the Dimension Police name is. Next up, 2 copy of Nihongu. His skill is sort of the opposite of Ishikimaru. On attack, counterblast 1, flip a copy of himself. For each unit in the standing position, gain 3k. Should be noted that with the crit trigger, if it's on the field, you can have it count as one of the standing units, then shove it into Soul, and then give it 3k.
Yeah, because you get to choose the order of your effects.
But a lot of people didn't realize that tonight, and it was really funny. But he is a Generation Break 2, but he's one of the big finishers. I mentioned earlier that you run a different starter. You can run a different starter called Seiyo Samonchi Toku. If you're running Seiyo Samonchi Toku, you're trying to end the game with this card, because he gives you 5k and a crit, and this guy prevents Sentinel Guards, and he swings for a massive number. So, he's a good card, obviously. Guard restriction, big number, not much else to say about him. And finally, my favorite stride, Genesis Dragon, Mikazuchi Munichika Toku.
Wait, this isn't the same guy as before with the blue background, isn't it?
Yep, same thing, except he has a cut.
Oh, God.
Okay, his skill. If you have 5 or more rear guards standing, he gains a crit. And his other skill is Generation Break 3, Counterblast 1, discard 2, on attack, restand all your rear guards, give them all +3.
I don't like this.
So, remember how I said that the 26k column is going to keep on restanding?
Yeah.
It gets bigger each time.
You suck.
Super, super good card. I compare it to Exilix because of the board power increase and the crit. It's a really good card. Just make sure you have the 2 cards to discard. Won me so many games tonight. G-Guardians. This guy, Kosetsu Samonji Toku. Easy enough, Soul Blast 1, gain 10k. You'll have a plethora of Soul. I'd honestly cut 1 for Dismal, but that might just be because I just faced Die Kaiser and I was scared. But I would probably cut 1 for Dismal. 1 Ogling. You run draw triggers, and as much as I love this guy, you don't always want him in hand, so you can just pitch him and draw a new card. So, there is that. And then finally, I'm not going to even bother trying to pronounce it. Oh wait, this is actually easy. Yuzumaru Sunegetsu. And this skill is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, pick the attacking unit, make it lose 10k, and then if it's the Vanguard, the shield gains 5k. So, about that Spectral Blaster Diablo restanding, about that Dragonic Overlord,
Yeah.
hell, what about that Blaster Blade?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good card. If it didn't cost the Counterblast, I'd run 2 of these things. But, yeah, that's basically the deck. It's not a hard deck, And honestly, if my opponents knew what my deck did, they probably would have won.
You mean more than just a great nature player?
Yeah. I named my deck, "What Do Your Cards Do?" for a reason. Because I was banking on people not knowing what my stuff did. And not being too lazy to ask. But I had a lot of fun. It worked really well. But yeah, that's the deck.
Oh, alright.
I need more SPs.
So do you want to, you already talked about all your matchups. Is there anything in this deck that you would change?
I mentioned earlier the Grade 4 change. I might cut this down to 2 and run 3 of the back row attacker. Also, honestly, I didn't have it happen at all until today, but I had to ride Hotaru Maru a bit too many times, so I might trade it out for another one of the Grade 3s. Touken Ranbu have like 4 different Striders, so take your pick, really.
Okay.
One is like, on play, search out an Uchi Nagana, which is your main Grade 3, the good Grade 2, for a Counterblast Soul Blast. And then on Stride, if you're at Chiken Hisatsu, give 3 things plus 3k for free.
Oh, one other thing. Do you want to explain like what the keywords are, like Chiken Hisatsu?
Oh yes, I'm
Omare,
sorry.
and stuff
I'm
like
sorry.
that for people who
Omare
don't know.
is on hit, but you can only use one Omare ability a turn.
Okay.
Chiken Hisatsu is limit break 3.
Okay.
And then Nito Kaigen is if I have a Wagasashi and a Uchi Nagana.
And Wagasashi is like the race.
Yes, the race type, and Uchi Nagana is also the race type.
Okay. Yeah, just for clarification for people who...
Yeah, no, it's a very confusing mechanic.
Yeah.
But if they're in the same column, they gain extra effects. Usually it's just a bunch of power.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Alright. Well, thank you, Miles. Do you know what you placed today?
I placed 32nd so far.
Alright, and you're going into day 2, so...
Yep.
Good luck.
Thank
I heard
you.
there was this really badass Aquaforce player who also made day 2.
I heard he placed somewhere in the 40 seconds.
Yeah, 40 seconds, but yeah, it's because most of his opponents dropped. So, whatever. It's not here or there. Nobody's at all salty about it, especially not people.
The person who played? No, not at all.
No. Anyway, so I will see you guys next time, hopefully with a top 8 deck profile for this deck profile. Or, just a top 8 for, Thavas.
Yeah,
All right.
We'll see about that.
Alright, well, see you guys later.
Have a good night.